Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel. Are you ready for some action? Then let's dive straight into it. Listen to this true life story about a cop who gave it all for his city. Officer David Morales had always been a cop for the people. Known around the community for his calm demeanor and protective nature, he had spent 18 years on the force, patrolling the streets of a neighborhood that had grown to love him like family. But there was a heaviness about this week, an unshakable feeling that something was coming. Morales had been contemplating retirement for a while, thinking of his wife Rosa and their daughter Elena, who was about to graduate high school. He wanted to be there more, wanted to watch his little girl take on the world. But as always, duty came first. It was a cold October night, and the streets were eerily quiet. A local drug cartel had been making its presence known over the last few months, and the precinct had received tip-offs that something big was brewing. Morales had been assigned to lead the night patrol with a few younger officers, most of them fresh out of the academy. He could feel their tension, the uncertainty of facing something real after so many drills. Around 11 p.m., a distress call came through the radio. It was coming from an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. The voice on the other end was shaking, hardly recognizable, but it was enough to send a jolt of adrenaline through Morales. "Officer down, multiple hostiles, need backup now." Morales instantly recognized the voice. Officer Brian, one of his closest friends on the force. Without hesitation, he barked orders to his team. "Everyone, stay sharp. We're going in hot. No heroics. We do this smart. We do this fast." As they approached the factory, Morales felt the weight of responsibility press harder on his chest. He had been through intense situations before, but this felt different. The factory loomed in front of them, its windows shattered and the surrounding air thick with tension. Inside it was dark, save for the flickering lights in the far corners of the building. The silence was deafening. Suddenly, the night exploded. Gunfire erupted from the shadows, pinning Morales and his team behind cover. Morales scanned the room, his eyes catching sight of Brian slumped against a wall, blood staining his uniform. His pulse quickened. The cartel had been waiting for them. "Fall back!" Morales yelled, but his voice was drowned out by the gunfire. His team was pinned, panic spreading through the younger officers. Without thinking, Morales broke from cover, rushing towards Brian. Bullets whizzed past his head, but he kept moving, his focus entirely on his fallen friend. He slid to Brian's side, checking his pulse. Still alive, but barely. "Hang on, Brian," Morales muttered, pulling him to safety behind a concrete pillar. Just then, the cartel leader, a notorious figure known as El Lobo, stepped out from the shadows, flanked by his men. His cold eyes locked on Morales. "You shouldn't have come here, Morales. Tonight's your last night on Earth." Morales felt a surge of fury. He had spent years trying to bring El Lobo down, watching as he terrorized the community Morales had sworn to protect. Tonight it felt personal. He knew there was no backup coming in time. It was him and his team against El Lobo's men. With no options left, Morales made a decision. He couldn't risk the lives of his younger officers any longer. "You all need to get out of here," he said, his voice steady. "I'll hold them off." "Sir, we're not leaving you," one of the rookies yelled. But Morales shot them a look that left no room for argument. "That's an order." As his team retreated, Morales took a deep breath. He knew this was it. He wasn't making it out of this factory. But if he could take El Lobo down, if he could protect his city one last time, it would be worth it. He checked his weapon, steeling himself for what came next. His thoughts flickered to Rosa and Elena. He wouldn't see them again, but at least they would be safe. He took a deep breath, letting the love for his family fuel him. "All right, Lobo," Morales called out, stepping into the open. "Let's finish this." The room fell into silence as El Lobo motioned for his men to stand down. "You've got guts, Morales. Too bad they'll be splattered all over this floor soon." Morales fired the first shot, and chaos erupted again. He moved with precision, taking down several of El Lobo's men with calculated shots, but he was outnumbered and outgunned. El Lobo moved closer, firing at Morales, the bullets grazing him as he took cover behind a steel beam. Morales was bleeding, his vision blurring, but he pushed through the pain. He couldn't afford to stop. In a last-ditch effort, Morales made a dash towards El Lobo, diving behind a stack of crates. He fired off his last rounds, taking down the remaining henchmen. Now it was just him and El Lobo. El Lobo sneered, stepping closer, his gun aimed at Morales' chest. "Looks like it's the end of the line, old man." But just as El Lobo pulled the trigger, Morales lunged, knocking the gun out of his hand. The two men grappled, fists flying. Morales could feel his strength waning, but he refused to give up. In a final burst of energy, he slammed El Lobo into a steel beam, knocking him unconscious. Morales staggered back, gasping for breath, his body screaming in pain. The room was spinning, but he had done it. He had stopped El Lobo. As he collapsed to the ground, he could hear the distant wail of sirens. Backup had finally arrived. Hours later, Morales woke up in the hospital, his body bruised and broken, but alive. Rosa was by his side, tears streaming down her face. "You're a hero," she whispered, her voice trembling. But Morales shook his head, his voice weak. "I'm just doing my job." Days later, Morales received a call. El Lobo had been arrested, his cartel dismantled. The city was safe, thanks to Morales. At the precinct, they honored him with a medal. But to Morales, the real reward was knowing that his family, his community, was safe. As he stood in front of his colleagues, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the sacrifice he had made, but also the pride of a life spent protecting those he loved. As he left the stage, his daughter Elena ran into his arms, her eyes filled with admiration. "Dad, you're my hero." And in that moment, Morales knew. He didn't need a medal to remind him of the legacy he had left behind. He had given everything, and that was enough. If you find this story interesting, please like, share, and subscribe so as to motivate me to make more interesting stories.